It's been a time full of opportunities for unscrupulous scammers.
A time where loneliness and isolation have been preyed upon like never before.
Cases of romance fraud have skyrocketed. It can be an emotionally and financially devastating crime, with victims losing an average of £10,000.
Whether you're retired, a teacher, or a doctor, it could happen to anyone.
I can't believe that I believed them.
So we're back to expose the lies behind these audacious cons and to try and stop the scammers in their tracks.
We'll be revealing the tricks these scammers will use to cheat and mislead.
They're exchanging information and it's going to be moved around on a dark web.
And meeting the teams working day and night to bring them to justice.
And as ever, we'll have everything you need to know to make sure you and your money stay safe.
Who the are you?
Don't swear at me, pal.
Coming up, it's a fight to convince this man that all is not as it seems with the girlfriend he met online.
Well, I mean, the way she's talking today, it doesn't appear as if she's scamming me. And she states that she still wants to come here.
You are being scammed.
Right.
Jennifer is not real.
How psychological trickery left this woman out of pocket.
He would say some quite nasty things to me, and that was the cycle. So what he was doing was playing with my mind.
And a vulnerable divorcee is taken for a ride.
I mean, I was sending money left, right and centre, using all kinds of different means of doing it.
So we've been contacted by someone called Joe who's concerned about the person he met online called Jennifer. Let's take a look at a video and find out more.
My wife had an operation and suddenly passed away in the hospital. I had no intentions of seeking another partner, but when this lady from Ghana decided to get in touch with me, saying that she saw my profile on a Facebook, we struck up a friendship. She's desperate to come here, move into the house and marry me. The money that I've spent is quite substantial. She expects it all the time. She thinks I should be here just sending money. You know, there's been times that she's tried to get here and there's always been an obstacle to stop her. I'd like to find out for definite, is she or is she not a scammer?
Joe has sent me all the pictures, texts and emails he has from Jennifer, so I'm going to get digging and see where it leads.
Meanwhile, I'm going to head to meet Joe in person to try and find out how this unlikely relationship came to be. Joe is a retired RAF logistics officer, father of 3 grown-up children, and a part-time lollipop man who's based in Fife. It was a personal tragedy that led him to online dating.
My wife at the time, who had been married to a couple of months short of 25 years, unfortunately, it turned out that she had a problem with her kidney. When they removed it, they discovered that she had cancer. Unfortunately, 2 weeks after the operation, she died.
Oh, Joe, I'm sorry about that.
It's a case of you just had to get on with life and make do with what you could.
Yeah.
Joe joined Facebook to keep in touch with friends and family, including his son, who was living abroad. Feeling ready to move on with his life and meet new people, when he received a friend request out of the blue from Jennifer, he went ahead and accepted it.
So you weren't actively, looking for love online? No. So what was it about Jennifer that appealed to you in the first place?
Just her sort of laid-back way that she spoke to me, like she'd known me for quite a while.
She made you feel comfortable?
Yeah.
OK, and she's from Ghana?
Yeah.
The more they talked online, the more a relationship started to develop. Jennifer told Joe that she was studying to be a nurse, and he was keen to offer all the support he could.
There was the odd occasional request for money, I'll not deny it, but I mean, we were only talking in terms of about 10, 15, 20 pounds. It seemed to be that she had just finished doing nursing training and there were no jobs, and I thought, well, you know, what's £20?
Then, after 3 months of chatting online, Jennifer decided to take the relationship to the next level.
Did Jennifer know what happened to your wife?
No, not initially, but I told her. I think this is why she more or less latched on and said, well, she would love to come here to live. For that, she decided that if we'd get along as well as she thought we were doing, would marriage interest me. And I just thought, well, you know, why not? I mean, I'm single.
As Joe and Jennifer started to make plans to get married, Jennifer introduced Joe to her family in Ghana over the phone.
As far as I know, there's only Jennifer and her sister and this husband of the sister.
So Jennifer's sister, what was her name?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, and her husband?
Who called in Ghana Kojo.
Okay.
Which is the same name as me, Joseph.
With the intention now firmly in place to spend their lives together, plans quickly turned to getting Jennifer to Joe's home in Fife.
I says, well, to come to Scotland, it would require you to fly here. I says, you're talking about quite a bit of money.
Jennifer said that as a trainee nurse, she couldn't afford the trip all on her own and asked Joe to cover some of the supplementary costs.
I mean, there was a passport that she had to get. I think it was something like £400. There was the visa. It was about another 250 quid. And I'd sort of gone so far talking to her and being so relaxed and at ease, if you like, that I thought, well, why not? You know.
Because you liked the relationship that you were having.
Joe transferred her the £650 and set about preparing for their new life together as a couple.
Has Jennifer done anything to prove to you who she is?
When I paid for her to get the passport, she actually showed me pictures of the passport and she showed me pictures of the visa. The photograph did fit what pictures she had been sending to me.
But the journey to get Jennifer to Scotland would prove to be anything but plain sailing. First, she told Joe he needed to provide more money for her plane ticket.
So the next month, she had seemingly got two people. They were supposed to be travel agents who were organising the air ticket, etc. The funny thing about it is that as time was going on, there was more and more money having to go across to these travel agents.
Next, having received £460 of Joe's money for the ticket, Jennifer ran into another spot of financial trouble when she tried to get on the plane.
She got stopped at the airport. She didn't have a yellow fever vaccination. So that was about another £200. The next thing was that she got to the airport again and the travel agents explained that she needed a certificate from the police and from the hospital. I think that was about another £170 for these two reports.
Not deterred by her first unsuccessful bid to leave Ghana, Jennifer promised to book a flight later in the year and try again. But this time, events took an even more unpredictable turn.
Then it come to about August time, and when she got to the airport, the police come and arrested her because she hadn't paid her the equivalent of her community charges.
This all begs the question, just how unlucky can one person be?
But we have to give Jennifer the benefit of the doubt until we discover otherwise. I'm struck by the fact Joe didn't go out of his way to look for love online. He just started a conversation on social media. So, when you meet someone new on the internet, is there anything in place to protect you? I've come to meet tech expert Dan Sodergren to find out.
Dan, are things changing in online dating sites and social media when it comes to crackdowns on fake profiles?
Yeah, I mean, the big sites like your Facebooks, your huge social media sites, yeah, they are changing. They're having to. They're actually getting rid of about 4 times the amount of fake profiles than they were before. And we're talking about billions of fake profiles that are generated a year. So, yeah.
And are scammers moving off the dating sites now?
Social media now is really, really attractive. And you've got to remember, during the pandemic, more people are doing social, but they're not necessarily doing dating. So if you've got more people in an area, actually you've got more people on social media sites, less people on the dating sites. So it kind of makes sense they're coming over to social media.
Well, you touched on it already, but why are scammers attracted to these big social media platforms?
It literally is the size. You know, if you think about it, if you've got 2.7 billion people, there's a huge opportunity. And unfortunately, of course, they target the vulnerable, and they target either the very young or the very old, and the vulnerable people of that population. And of course, the bigger the population, the more chance you've got of unfortunately hitting the pay dirt, so to speak.
Could retired RAF logistics officer Joe's online girlfriend Jennifer be one of those looking to take advantage of the old and vulnerable? Let's see if Kim can uncover any other telltale factors.
Joe's already revealed to me that he spent thousands on Jennifer's first attempt to fly out to him in the UK. Then he was told her attempts were thwarted a second time, having been arrested at the airport for unpaid community charges.
And I said, well, there's no way I am paying all that amount of money.
How much was that?
£2,400.
But the mishaps and their associated pleas for money kept coming. First, it was the community charge bill. Then it was a tax bill. And though Joe tried to walk away several times, he always came to Jennifer's aid in the end, sending her as much money as he could afford.
None of my daughters know about the amount of the money that's involved. They know that I'd been paying money, but they don't know the exact extent of it.
He doesn't always listen, tries to see the good in everybody. She's been booked on that many flights that there is only so much that you can really do and say before, you know, is she actually genuine?
Although Joe's daughter has expressed her concerns about Jennifer, Joe continues to support her financially.
Probably paid about another 2,500 so far this year. To which I've told her, well, if you don't arrive this time, you can forget it.
Jennifer maintains she is committed to making it to Scotland, even if the small matter of a global pandemic is causing yet more difficulty.
She claims that the lawyer that's the friend of the family has actually managed to get her a flight this month to come here. She still needs this COVID test, which has to be paid for, and that's £125.
And I'm assuming she wants you to pay for that?
Well, she wants me to pay for it, yeah. I'm beginning to think to myself, God, how much more?
Tell me then a total of what, so far, you have given either to Jennifer or to travel agents.
It has to be bordering on £6,500 to £7,000. I need to know if it's a real person. Also need to know if she intends coming here. When the hell's she coming? Because it can't go on.
We'll see what we can do, but you can't send any more money.
Right, OK.
Joe still seems to be convinced that this person could still be legit, but the fact of the matter is, Joe has given her almost £7,000, which sets alarm bells off in my head.
Scammers are crafty, manipulative, and all too often capable of making even the most sensible of people make risky and dangerous decisions in the name of love. Pam Bauer from Kent went online innocently looking for companionship, but was soon caught up in a whirlwind of lies and deception she could never have imagined.
I got married quite late in life to somebody who was 20 years older than me, but he had heart problems. He sadly passed away 6.5 years ago, and so I felt stable enough to think about having somebody else in my life. I went on to Plenty of Fish on the 3rd of December. I shall never forget that date.
63-year-old parish clerk Pam didn't have to wait long for her first online connection.
Derek contacted me not long after I'd been on Plenty of Fish, and I really liked the look of him. So I responded, and Derek got me to move quite quickly onto WhatsApp. And almost the first chat was a rose hitting my way, you know, a rose emoji.
54-year-old Derek told mum of one Pam he was a South African engineer working in the fracking industry. He was currently in Aberdeen on his last contract before retirement, after which he hoped to settle down with someone.
He made me feel wanted. He made me feel attractive and sort of warm inside, as you would hope to get from having a man in your life.
Derek's affections had Pam hooked, but she soon realised he had an explosive, darker side.
It turned into arguments created by him for no reason whatsoever, and I would challenge him about it, and he just wouldn't listen. He would say some quite nasty things to me.
But no sooner had the pair argued, Derek was back in touch to make up, and this time more passionate than ever.
He would say, oh, he was really sorry, and that was the cycle. So what he was doing was playing with my mind.
A few weeks into the relationship, Derek told Pam he was having internet problems and needed her to log into his bank account and buy some things for him.
He said that he needed equipment from China, and he told me exactly what to look for. And he sent me his bank account details, and I logged on, and there was his bank account that had $1 million plus in it. So I thought, all right, this is okay.
Pam had no idea Derek was such a wealthy man.
I got an email from the company saying that, yes, they'd received the payment, thank you very much. They now needed $37,000 for shipping and insurance.
Pam once again logged into Derek's bank account and made the transaction. But soon after, he called to say there was a problem.
He had a little look into it, he said, and then he came back and said, they've frozen my account. And I said, why? And he said, because I've tried to do 2 big transactions in a very short period of time. He said, I now have a problem because the only way I can clear it is to get the card reader from my flat in London where I've left it.
But getting access to the flat apparently wasn't an option. He shared it with his sister, and the two had had a falling out after she allegedly tried to fleece him out of his savings. Not wanting to get his sister involved, Derek asked Pam to help him instead.
And that's when he started asking me for money.
But Pam didn't see lending the money as a risk. He was, after all, a millionaire.
And I remember whispering down the phone, I do actually have the money. And that was my fatal mistake, because then he knew that I could get that money to him.
Very quickly, the situation began to spiral.
The first thing he asked me to do was to get him some money in cash and hand it over to his colleague in London at the Paddington Hilton Hotel.
Pam agreed to an initial payment of £3,000 to help Derek. All she had to do was find a man named Douglas, hand over the £3,000 and then leave.
All the way through, I had in my head, this is a scammer. I am dealing with a scammer. But I was in love with him. I wanted to be with him, so I had to do it.
Pam arrived with the cash and found her contact, but there was some initial confusion.
There was this small guy standing there, so I went up to him and said, are you Douglas? And he said, no, I'm... And then he said, yes, Douglas. And if I had only clocked then that actually he wasn't called that, obviously, things might have been a bit different, but I was in a terrible state by then. I just handed him the money and got the tube back and the train back home.
But the requests for cash didn't stop there. Derek insisted he needed another £34,000 to cover the cost of the shipment of his equipment. Pam then told Derek that she could access a further £18,000 from her savings.
I had taken an old handbag that zipped up. I'd asked them to put it into 2 separate envelopes, and I put it into the handbag, and I gripped that handbag really tightly the whole way up because I was scared. It's an awful lot of cash to be carrying.
Once again, she had to drop the money off to the man called Douglas at the Paddington Hotel. But before doing so this time, Pam struck up the courage to ask Douglas some questions about Derek.
I said to him, is Derek a scammer? And he said to me, oh, Don't say that, Derek will be absolutely furious. We went no further with that, and I handed the money over and made my way back home.
In the following months, Pam sent more money to Derek and had soon sent him around £26,000. But he was still short of the full £37,000 he told Pam he needed, so Derek continued to pile on the emotional pressure.
He still needed £11,000, so could I take that up to Douglas? And if I did, he would then be coming down that weekend to stay with me. So I said, well, I'm not going to hand it over to you until I have proof that you are coming down. And he said, I will be flying. And he sent me his booking reference with EasyJet and told me to go onto the EasyJet booking site, which I did, and there was the flight. So in the light of that, I decided to take the final 11K up there. It was final in my head because that made up the 37,000.
With the money handed over to Douglas once again, Pam was excited that she would finally get to meet Derek, the man she'd come to think of as the love of her life, in person.
I was very happy, yes. I woke up in the morning and I thought, oh, good, he's coming today. But I thought, I'm just going to double check that the booking is still there. And I went on to the EasyJet manager booking site, put in the booking reference, nothing. He said, here, you've got a new booking reference. And I went online, put it in, and yes, the booking was there, and it was the same flight back, but he was going back up to Scotland on the Sunday and not the Tuesday, and I thought that was very suspicious.
The flight back wasn't the only change of plan. For some reason, Derek needed £4,000 straight away to make the journey, but Pam had had enough.
I refused to give it to him. He was then extremely nasty on the phone. He said he had a taxi waiting at the gate screaming at him because he wasn't going, and it was all my fault that he wasn't coming down. And I think it was at that point that I decided I've had enough. I've been scammed.
It was a harsh reality for Pam to accept, given she'd invested so much emotion, not to mention cash, in their relationship.
I sent a WhatsApp to the local PCSO, who's also a friend, and to my sister. I didn't even read it back. It could have been full of typos. I just knew I had to send it, and I did.
When I received that message, my heart sank into my boots. I felt so sorry for her. And I could understand when she said in her message that she had only told her PCSO and myself because she felt I would not judge her, I would support her, and I knew exactly what she meant.
My sister is a vicar. She said, I'm just about to take the 8 o'clock service. I will ring you later.
She's trying hard to put it behind her, and I hope she meets somebody who will be a companion for her.
The person in the photos is most likely an innocent victim of identity theft, so Pam may never know who the man calling himself Derek really was.
I remember the last sort of little conversation we had when he actually said to me, why did you hand the money over? You're an intelligent person. And I said to him, I don't know. And that's the very last conversation I've ever had with him.
Whilst Pam shut Derek out of her life when she realised she was being scammed, Joe Lister is holding out hope his online girlfriend Jennifer is the real deal. Jennifer had been due to fly into Edinburgh from Ghana to finally meet up with Joe in Fife, but there's been a problem.
8:30, I got a message from Jennifer and told me that she had been held in the airport for 10 days for the coronavirus. Seemingly it's flared up again in Ghana. Because her sister and her sister's boyfriend are confirming what's actually been told to me, I kind of more or less accept the fact that she's telling the truth. I mean, I wouldn't have stuck with her for 2.5 years if I didn't think it was all going to work out in the end.
Joe makes a call to tell his daughter what's happened.
Jennifer, I won't be here today. Well, there's not much you can do if it's the coronavirus that's stopping her getting here.
So she says.
Well, yeah, and her sister, and her sister's boyfriend. I don't think 3 people would lie to me, would they?
No.
Unless they're all in this together.
Well, I've said that from the start.
Coronavirus is just the latest in a long list of reasons Jennifer has given for failing to get on a plane from Ghana to Scotland. So I want to dig a little deeper and see if any of these reasons stack up.
Jennifer was meant to come to the UK to meet Joe, but she said she couldn't because she was due a health test and needed a yellow fever injection. However, I'm on the UK government website and it's very clear that those aren't requirements to get into the UK.
So what about the photos of herself that Jennifer has been sending? What will a deep dive into those reveal?
I mean, what is clear straight away is that this one image is connected to many other dating websites and different names are attached to the image. So you've got Philippa, you've got Susan, you've got an Appia. So what's very apparent is that we don't know who Joe's speaking to, but it certainly isn't the person in the photos.
Not only that, I'm pretty certain this isn't the first time I've seen these images before.
We've been sent lots of emails from people who think they may be being scammed. When I was looking into Joe's case, there was something familiar about the photos of Jennifer, which led me to contact someone called Simon Frost.
Retired dentist and father of 2, Simon Frost, was looking for companionship, and after a number of failed relationships, he thought online dating was worth a try.
My first wife and mother of my 2 daughters still lives in Sound. I married somebody from Norwich. That didn't last very long. And then I married a lady from Ethiopia, whom I met in Spain. I was lonely. Basically, I'd moved back here from Spain. I was living on my own, as I still am.
It wasn't long before he fell into conversation online with someone called Eva.
We'd talk most days. It might have been email. It might have been on the phone.
Eva told Simon she was a 37-year-old nurse working for the World Health Organization in Ghana. But take a look at the photographs she sent. To our eyes, this woman looks almost identical to the person Joe Lister believes to be Jennifer.
And I felt good chatting to her, particularly in the earlier weeks. I'm one of these people that has a strong empathy with people who are in trouble. And it wasn't very long into that she started asking for money.
The couple had been having an online relationship for 4 months and were making plans for Eva to fly to the UK so they could be together. Eva asked Simon for money to help with her living costs. He initially agreed to send a few £100s here and there to tide her over. Again, the resonances with Joe's case are striking.
I don't know that I actually, at the time, thought much about it. I did later on, when it started getting big amounts.
It was at this time that Eva confided in Simon that her father had set aside a substantial amount of money for her, but she couldn't access it until she was married.
She was talking, knocking £2 million, and a great big box of gold. Her father was South African and had run mines and goodness knows what out there. She was going to come here and we were going to live a wealthy life.
Once they were husband and wife, Eva would bring the money with her to the UK, and she and Simon could spend the rest of their lives together.
She and her mother went off, came back and said it's all dealt with. And I got the marriage certificate fairly soon after.
Despite the fact they'd never met or even been in the same country, Eva emailed Simon to tell him they'd been married on the 3rd of November 2017. Initially unsure about the legitimacy of the marriage certificate, Simon was reassured when Eva told him the certificate meant she would now be able to access the savings account set up by her father. And that in turn meant she was free to fly to the UK to take up her new life as Simon's wife. As accessing her savings would take a while, Simon excitedly sent Eva the £1,600 she needed for the flight. But once again, just like in Joe's case, there was an unexpected problem as she boarded the plane.
And of course, nobody turned up. I managed to call her from the airport, and I was told that she was in prison. She was arrested in the airport for carrying 2 gold bars, and you're not allowed to transfer gold from another country. I was disappointed. I was looking forward to meeting her.
Simon paid a substantial amount of money to secure her release from prison. And he continued to make subsequent smaller payments to cover her living costs after she returned home.
I mean, I was sending money left, right, and centre, using all kinds of different means of doing it. I did some of it from bank accounts. Towards the end, I used things like MoneyGram and Western Union, that sort of thing.
Then finally, things came to a head.
I had a phone call from a phone with an English number, which turned out to be Eva, who told me she was in London. So after several calls, I rang the police, and they discovered that the phone was actually in Nigeria. And I told Eva that she was actually in Nigeria. That really was the point where I said, forget it. The whole thing just didn't smell right. I realized at that point that I had been scammed, and within 24 hours, I'd called the police.
Simon had wiped out his savings, racked up credit card bills, and taken out loans. In total, he'd handed the person he thought was Eva nearly £20,000.
I'm ashamed that I allowed myself to be scammed in the way I was. At the time, I didn't appreciate it. I thought something was coming out of it.
2 men, both of them lonely, both scammed out of their life savings by someone using photographs of the same woman. So the key question is, who is she?
I've asked private investigator Laura Lyons to take a look into the images and see what she can uncover.
Tell me about your findings for Joe.
I find it quite unusual, in all honesty, in terms of the fact that the individual seems to have been honest with him in regards to kind of her location. She said that she's obviously in Ghana. Normally, we would find that actually people pretend to be in America or in the UK or stuck somewhere. And it appears from, you know, what she's told him, you know, her location and everything, that is real. However, the images that she has used, we have seen used in numerous scams, and the images are of quite a famous model called Briana Lee.
Oh, my days. Here we go.
So, yeah, exactly. Briana Lee knows that her photos are being used by the catfishers.
And what's her reaction?
She's put warnings up on her website and her social media pages, but the thing is not everybody knows who she is, and obviously these fraudsters are just cashing in on using her photos because she's extremely attractive
What else can you tell me about Joe's case?
Again, it's very, very common where we see 3 or 4 people involved. They've all got different emails and they're all emailing Joe and saying, look, she really needs help. And one's a travel agent trying to book the flights. And actually what you'll find is these are all the same person, just operating under different emails. I mean, all of the email addresses provided, they're just set up via Gmail. You know,
so anyone
trace.
could set that up?
Yeah, exactly.
So with the identity of the woman in the photos Joe believed to be Jennifer finally revealed as adult film star Briana Lee, all the pieces are finally in place to present our findings to Joe. Joe sent Jennifer over £7,000 in the belief she was coming to Scotland so they could start a new life together. But our investigations have found Jennifer's stories simply don't stack up.
Same photos, different stories behind each person.
This is going to be a bit of a shock to him, isn't it?
We've got a huge body of evidence to show Joe. Let's hope he takes it on board.
How have things been since we last spoke?
Her sister was due to go into hospital and needed another £22 towards the fee to pay the hospital to get an X-ray done on the baby that she's carrying. When I thought about it, I thought, well, yeah, you know, if there's nobody working, they have to get the money from somewhere.
Joe, do you have any doubts about these stories?
The only doubts I've had is what family and friends have been installing into my ears.
Joe clearly needs our help, so it's time to lay down what we've found.
One of the payments Joe sent to Jennifer was for a yellow fever vaccination so she could fly to the UK. However, it didn't take much research to discover this was all a lie.
Well, I've got the government page here for you.
All right, OK.
Now, there is no reason why she would need a yellow fever injection to come to the UK. That is a flat-out lie.
Well, I mean, the way she's talking today, it doesn't appear as if she's scamming me, you know? And she states that she still wants to come here.
Hopefully our reverse image search, showing where else these images have been used on the internet, can help Joe come to terms with the fact Jennifer is ripping him off.
Jennifer's photo is being used on countless dating sites and profiles from across the world.
That could be somebody using her photograph taken. You know, I know it goes on.
Are you of a mind that someone has stolen Jennifer's identity and is using them? Is that what you're thinking?
I never said that's what happened. I said it's a possibility.
A possibility, yeah.
I've no idea how Joe will react when we tell him we've worked out exactly who is in the pictures.
We've identified that they are, in fact, of a model and adult film actress called Briana Lee.
Yeah. I can quite believe it, because that's what I found, but I wasn't sure which were which. The one in the yellow, that isn't Jennifer.
Joe has done his own research into the photographs and come to a similar conclusion to ourselves, but he doesn't believe that all the photos are of Briana Lee and that some could still be of Jennifer. We need to bring in someone else to help us convince Joe that these same photographs have been used to scam people multiple times before. Simon Frost, the man who thought he was in a relationship with the same woman, only in his case called Eva, has agreed to talk to Joe.
Hello.
2 peas in a pod.
Not that different, are we?
No.
He's agreed to share his experiences with Joe and some advice.
She called herself Eva Otto. I didn't discover who this lady really was until after it was just about over. I should have been more open and realised what was going on. That was my fault.
Yeah, well, it seems to be my fault as well.
Where do you stand on this persona of Jennifer?
It's getting more and more to the stage where I'm ready to start believing that she's a scammer.
Are you there yet?
Almost. Almost.
But we've got someone else up our sleeve. A video call with the person whose photographs have been used to scam him, Briana Lee herself.
Hello, Briana.
How are you?
Rather beaten up. But can I just say that some of the photographs that I've had, actually looking at you just now, there are differences in the facial expressions.
Yeah, there are a lot of older photos that are most commonly used when I still looked really young.
Yeah.
I grew up on the internet, so, 11 years later, I definitely look different. So, yeah, I can understand why that's a bit confusing.
Yeah.
Are you aware of how often this has happened to you?
I have only recently started a collection of fake profiles, so there's actually now, a link to where you can see many of them. I would easily say 40, 50,000. And I would say there's been $1 million American dollars easily lost in scams.
That's unreal.
We have presented you with a whole load of information.
Yeah.
We have given you the chance to speak to Briana and Simon, another person who was duped.
Yeah.
Where do you stand now?
I'm about 95% convinced that this Jennifer is a scammer.
95%? Yeah. You need to forget that 5%. You are being scammed.
Right.
Jennifer is not real.
Right. Okay.
If you add up everything that we've given to you now, and all of the things that have happened before where she's wanted to come and then she's not come and then she wanted to come and then she's not come, if you add all of that into this equation...
As I say, I'm 95% convinced.
It seems there's only one way to put this to bed. We need to make a call to the scammers behind the persona of Jennifer before any more money is sent.
Joe sends Jennifer a message, and moments later, we receive a phone call from Kojo, who Joe was told was Jennifer's sister's boyfriend, and he wastes no time with the emotional blackmail.
Hello?
Listen.
Listen to me, Kojo. Kojo, I have hit a stumbling block with Jennifer. There are so many times that she's had a problem with getting here. She now wants me to buy another ticket to get her here. How would you feel if I turned round to you and said that this was all one big scam?
She's coming as soon as she got the plane ticket.
My name is Ashley, and I've been working with Joe, and you are being recorded for broadcast on the BBC. We have been filming with Joe the last few weeks. We believe Jennifer Lonity is a fake identity that you've created. They've hung up.
Well,
what else do you need?
I think that clinches it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
You block them.
Yeah.
Okay, don't give them a chance to communicate with you ever again.
Yeah.
Have you got the answers that you've been looking for?
I think so, yeah.
We've done the investigation.
Yeah.
You've got your answers, and I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
That's okay.
We wish you all the best.
The pleasure's all mine. Hurtful, but at the same time gave me the full answers that I was looking for. Even with the revelations of what they were coming up with, I was still, because I've been brought up to give people the benefit of the doubt. Not anymore. Those people are out of my life now, and they won't be anywhere near me again.
If you think you've been scammed in a similar way or been asked to send money to someone you've been talking to online, then we'd like to hear from you. Email us at loveormoney@bbc.co.uk. Join us again.
A completely different photo, completely different information, but the exact same passport number.
For more shocking tales of romance fraud.
Philip was in the emergency room, he'd shot himself. It was 50-50 if he survived.